All right, Steelers fans, welcome into the Knoll Road. What is happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Are we now living in a world where the most likely scenario is missing the playoffs and Coach Tomlin somewhere else in 2025? What else is coming into focus as we turn our attention to the final third of the season? It is an overreaction postgame here on the Knoll Road. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Buddy, it's Dawson, a new bear for you. Hit the like button, subscribe. We go long form about 4 times a week. Buddy, how we doing tonight there in the city? How's it feeling?
You know, I'm sitting here watching Monday Night Football and thinking about, I was reading this neat little article about Christian McCaffrey earlier as a wide receiver and all these other things, Christian McCaffrey. And I'm watching them to go horizontal stretch and thinking, oh, how nice it must be to know that in a few plays, I'm going to see Greg Kittle or Jawan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall fighting to get CTE between the safeties. Middle of the field, damn it.
Yeah, middle of the field, a big topic. But let me start with this. Overreaction or not, people are saying offense and not throwing the ball over the middle is the bigger problem. But to me, once again, it was the defense. Like they can't get off the field. The offense produced 360 yards. That could be enough. That should be enough, especially with the takeaways they got early in the game. But the defense couldn't stop anybody, and that's a bigger concern for me right now.
All right, how about inside that argument? Bigger overreaction or bigger problem, the offense's outright refusal to attack the parts of the defense that are weak in and week out, or the defense's inability to communicate anything. Oh, hey, look, here goes Luther Burden in motion. Oh my God, we must blow this coverage. Like it was insane to watch everybody talking at the snap like nobody knew what to do.
Yeah, the Bears 7 of 13 on third down. Just incredible looking at some of this stuff. The Steelers were close once again, but close against the Bears is just, further to what we were talking about in the Sunday show, that this Steelers team is average. And I think that's what people are starting to get a real great understanding of now, is what this team was on paper, your expectations for them, adding Aaron Rodgers, the hope. That was hope. And right now we're living in a world where the Steelers are probably an average football team. And I don't know if they're going to finish 8-9 or 9-8, but I could see, either one of those scenarios. I could see them losing 4 of their final 6.
The thing that's so troubling about it is the Bears. Okay, so you are what your record says you are. The Bears are 8-3. The Bears are a first place team. The Bears are a playoff team. The Bears are dangerous. Caleb Williams is the prince that was promised. All these other things that I just can't.
Bears aren't good. Bears have a negative point differential.
Right, in 3 of the 4 quarters. And what I'm going to say is, what I was working my way to say is, they came into this game, second in total yards, third in rushing average, 146 a game. They shut down the run. They didn't run the ball. And Caleb Williams was 19 for 35 for 239. And you lost this game. DJ Moore has been in witness protection, and all of a sudden you couldn't cover the man. I love DJ Moore. I'm a big DJ Moore fan. I would have loved for him to have ended up in Pittsburgh after Rome Odunze's dad couldn't leave his Twitter thumbs alone. But Caleb Williams isn't out there throwing for 404 or even 304, 239 and 3, maximizing every opportunity, 19 to 35 and a couple of runs. You shut the run game down. And OMFG, still we're talking about 30-plus points given up.
Yeah, brutal. Okay, so speaking of that, even though he had a big play, let me start with this. Overreaction or not, TJ washed?
No, it's an overreaction. He's still a really, 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 really good player. I think Myles Garrett has 18 sacks. He needs 5.5 or in the last 6 games to break the record, and he probably will. And I think it's not a 1-to-1 comparison. Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, all these other guys. Like, he's been so good for so long, and he still has a lot of good football out ahead of him. When he makes that strip sack, the difference is that used to be a game set match. That used to be a galvanizing force. Here come the troops. you might not get another bleeping yard. This is the night you remember the Titans speech level stuff. And I mean, go back to, taking Mahomes down in the wild card. All of a sudden they're huge underdogs and TJ scores a touchdown in a playoff game and you go, hold on a second. Maybe these Steelers could be, and then before you know it, you're giving up a 40 burger and getting run out of Arrowhead. So it's one of those things where there was a time where when stuff like that happened, that was the end of the conversation, game over, lights out. Just like there was a time when players left the Steelers and their careers were basically over. Now everyone leaves this team and goes to the Pro Bowl.
I just think he's about a Pro Bowl level player right now. At least that's what he has shown so far this season. I need to see in the final 6 games TJ Watt get back to a point where he's going to do one of those in the first quarter and come back with the game in the line in the second half and make a few more plays. Is that a sack? Is that a sack fumble? I don't care. Is that a tip with an interception? I don't care. Is that a pressure that forces an under duress throw that ends up with an interception? And you can go counting stats or you can go PFF, but he is no longer playing at an all-pro level. And that's just what's happened so far through 11 games. We need to see that return to believe this defense can be what it is, because it's the biggest nightmare in sports when you have an edge wrecking your game plan. He's not wrecking game plans at this point.
The slant touchdown where he dropped, I swear I thought that was going to be a pick. And I think that's the level where maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that little something, that 10th of a second, he hasn't lost a step. Like let's not get crazy about this and jump off a cliff about. So TJ washed, no. Pro Bowl versus
no, not washed.
Versus Pro Bowl versus all pro, we may be there. We may be 10 to 12 sacks. And you talk about it all the time when you talk to guys in the building, and how many rushes do you really get? That number doesn't go up as you get older, right? And so, the PFF grades that we talked about as recently as last year, where you could argue that he is still the best, not most, but best, right? Because he wasn't first in this, he wasn't first in that, but in totality, he was still best. Because you got to play the run too. It's not all just, rushing the quarterback, and you got to be able to put yourself in a position to go rush the quarterback. And that's one of the big things about that damn game is like when you're not running the ball and you throw the ball 35 times, what was their pressure rate? Like 12, 13% on the season coming in, they were 29.5. So less than half of their regular pressure rate. Like everything was off. What's the clip that went viral where, the ball's on the 41, it's 3rd and 5, and the defense is across midfield. Like some of the zone drops and some of the just scheme busts, and for Queen to come to the podium and say some of this is schematic. I think these players are so burnt and they're so tired of taking the brunt of Tomlin's burden that, eventually we're going to see some tea.
My biggest issue was the light line on goal line with Keanu Benton at nose tackle.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? And
Nickel.
There's a case to be made that Teryl Austin should be fired right now, just so the Roonies can get a firm understanding of what Tomlin is and isn't capable of doing when he has his hands at the steering wheel a little bit more. Let me come over to offense here. Overreaction or not, DK Metcalf is not a wide receiver 1. And I'll start here because I think what's happened to DK is the same thing that happened to George Pickens. Nobody knew if George Pickens could come close to what he's doing right now. And DK Metcalf is going to say goodbye to his time as an all-pro productive level wide receiver if they don't get a new coaching staff in here.
Yeah, this thing with DK is really tough because you look at a guy like that and you go, I would believe any video that someone said was AI was DK actually doing whatever the thing is. Running, jumping, eating lions, like whatever the case may be. Like he is just one of those dudes that you want to get off the bus first. And you asked a simple question, overreaction or not. It's not. I joked over the course of the past few weeks that he is wide receiver 1B to wide receiver 1A as in actual, that the problem isn't Roman Wilson's season or lack thereof or Jalen Waddle. The problem is you're not trading for wide receiver 2. You actually have a problem at wide receiver 1. He's never been And don't go find some clip on YouTube or on Twitter of him going and mossing some dude. I'm talking about consistently. He's never been a guy that you play like George Pickens and it's 50-50 balls and it's 0-1-9 on the route tree. He is get in and out of breaks. He is, especially if you scheme him open, like we saw in Dublin, run away from everyone, catch and release. But this is a real serious problem because it is not an overreaction.
Well, I just don't think it takes all that stuff to be a wide receiver one. Like, I'm a matchup nightmare. I'm big and I'm fast. Tyreek Hill is small and he was one of the fastest guys in the league. He couldn't really play wide receiver. He was a running back for a lot of his life, but he proved that he could get the job done at wide receiver, and in a good offense, he blew up. Like, Metcalf has had 15, 16, 17 yard a catch type of seasons. He's had 90, 83, 75 catch seasons, big enough counting numbers to put him in that conversation. I think if you put him with the Chiefs right now, he'd be heading for 1,500 yards with 12 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you switch him and George Pickens is out producing DK. I think there's levels to the game.
For sure.
And when you pay a guy like he's on Mount Rushmore.
But if there's 32 teams and there's going to be 32 best wide receivers on those teams, he's definitely in there. He's probably in the top 15 conversation.
Right, but he's out Mount Rushmore by what the checks are coming.
He's not Mount Rushmore. I see. If you're looking at wide receiver one, like, who's him out there, he's not in that conversation.
Well, and here's the problem. So George Pickens writes a letter to the Players Tribune and says, I saw what they did with DK, and I said, okay, please send me somewhere where I can go do my thing, because you are about to do the same thing with him that you were trying to do with me. And okay, great. Let's just keep it a buck and keep it moving. And what's so crazy about it is when the trade was announced, I posted on like Instagram everywhere the Step Brothers picture, where they're in the front yard introducing each other. It's, hey, I'm DK. Hey, I'm George. Hey, I'm DK. Because I couldn't fathom how crazy this was about to get with these two freaks. And then they ship Pickens out of town and you go, oh, okay, well, who are they going to go get? Or they must really feel good about Roman Wilson in year 2. And now here we are through week 12 going, the problem isn't wide receiver 2.
No, they have a lot more problems than wide receiver 2. Okay, overreaction or not, Aaron Rodgers can fix this starting this week against the Bills at Acrisure.
I'm going to say no, and here's why. I think Aaron Rodgers, especially if he goes Perk Rodgers, will just say fuck it and start throwing seam scud missiles to Pat Freiermuth. Aaron Rodgers can't fix this. I think it is an overreaction because it's not going to get fixed. It is not fixable as long as the people who are running the circus stay in control of the machine. I just want to believe, want to live in a world where I'm not going to hate every Sunday. So Aaron Rodgers' ego is such that if he can sit on the sidelines and know as soon as they break the huddle it's the wrong formation, he can say, fuck it all, I'm throwing it up the middle.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish I could believe more in Aaron Rodgers, but I think Father Time has got him. It sucks. I've been off and on with Aaron Rodgers. I really got back on the train when the documentary came out and I learned more about his personal journey and kind of what made him tick. And then seeing how he connected with the guys in Latrobe and then through the season, the different podcasts of how everybody loves Aaron Rodgers. I get it now. I'm back on Aaron. I mean, when he was in his prime with the Packers, I thought he was the best quarterback that I'd ever seen. I thought he was in the GOAT conversation. But I don't think we've seen enough this year. Now, as I said in the Sunday show, give me Perk Rodgers and we'll see what happens, because that might just fill him full of the energy and the toughness that he needs to go out there and play. But you can't play quarterback in the NFL if you lack toughness and athleticism. It's more important now than it's probably been since the 1950s.
Well, I don't think he lacks toughness. I think they were trying to protect him from himself last week because they were more worried about if it turned into 4 or 6 to 8 season-ending type of thing. I also believe they really felt like they could get through that week, and for all intents and purposes, they should have. Like Mason,
he's scared of getting hit. He's scared of getting hit. And maybe he's still mentally tough, but he's physically fragile.
So I don't disagree with that at all, except for the fact that how many times have we seen him put himself running, particularly the shot he took on his way to the goal. He could have went out of bounds. What I'm saying is I think his body and his mind are willing, right? I think his soul is broken because his soul has gone to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. I think he is ready to move on to the next chapter of his life, which is probably a really deep and profound spiritual journey. And when he returns, he's going to be some sort of a guru or a yogi or something. I can't wait to see what's next for Aaron Rodgers. Could be a hell of a commentator.
Overreaction or underreaction? Gavin Dawson will say, "Take my money" when he releases the tape or the book.
I love
or
it.
The combination of the two.
I love it. Okay, how about this? It's a double decker, and we teased it. We talked about it in the open. Number one, Steelers won't make the playoffs. This is Mike Tomlin's final season as head coach of these Steelers. I'm warming up my 19 reasons this will be his final season. I'm ready to execute this. Look for it for some time this week when we upload it. Hit the bell button so you never miss when we go live or upload, buddy. It's come down to, can you be better than the Jags, Chiefs, and Texans down the stretch? I just don't know what the Steelers can hang their hat on. They don't have a good offense. They don't have a good defense. They're average. I guess maybe they could make the playoffs if they get some bounces, but I don't think so. You look at this schedule, it's the Ravens twice, it's the Bills, and it's the Lions. I think they're going to go 2-4 down the stretch and miss.
Well, in the house of horrors that is the Mistake by the Lake, and I almost just said Jameis Winston because I still have scar tissues. While I'm celebrating him having the greatest quarterback throwback touchdown in the history, did you see that with Jameis Winston? The Snow Angels game just ruined me forever for Tomlin, because when they went into Cleveland and Jameis came out like Muhammad Ali in the snow and then delivered on, and George Pickens is fighting guys in the end zone while the ball's still in the air. That was just, what's his nuts? Fitzpatrick took his damn shirt off and went and did Snow Angels with Jameis after they might not go into Cleveland. Shador Sanders is him now. He's talking about princes who were promised. And Myles Garrett breaking the sack record, breaking Aaron Rodgers' femur. So, yeah, the Lions, the Bills, the Ravens twice. I just don't. How did you phrase it? They won't make the playoffs, and this is Tomlin's last season?
Yeah, double whammy.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the way that you could move on. Nobody's trading for Tomlin. Come on, nobody's that dumb.
Yeah, well,
but if they go 8-9, the streak is over. I think that might push it.
Well, and that also gives the Rooneys a nice public out where they can kind of say, why don't you go do TV for a year, Mike? And then when you decide you're ready to move on, we'll figure that out together. The thing is, like, if what we're thinking is going to happen happens, it's not an overreaction, because what if they lose all 5 of those games? Or what if they go 1-4? What if they only beat Cleveland and they get motorboated by Josh Allen, Jared Goff, and Lamar taking the North? That's going to be, they were 1-5 at one point. They were 1-5, and you were 5-1. You had a chance to push it to 7-1. You had a chance to make this rest your starters down the stretch. Man, we were talking about wide receiver 2 and making Super Bowl shuffle videos. The AFC North version of it. No, it's not an overreaction. And frankly, it's what needs to happen, because the more things don't change, the more things don't change.
So they got 6 games left. The Dolphins could beat them. Hell, you got to go to Cleveland. The Browns have a nasty defense. They could beat you 13-7. Losing out obviously is a very low probability, but it's still possible.
Yeah, Miami didn't lay down. Not that they're playing for each other, right? They're playing for pride. Yeah. And I think a lot of those guys do like McDaniel, enough to say, okay, let's play this thing out and let's have some fun doing so. And oh, by the way, they've got Saints and Jets. They could be on a 4-game heater after they gave who we just talked about, Josh Allen, a 30-burger and shut his ass down. They made the Bills look bad. So if you're going to hold out hope, that's where it is. That it's because the Bills are not a perfect team. They're above average. You're average, but an above average team that you peanut punch 5 times. Hey, buddy, we already saw you do it to the Colts and the Patriots, and nobody's doubting them, even as punched in the mouth as, they had a chance to end the Chiefs for all intents and purposes, couldn't get it done, and didn't look good, blowing that game. So, man, that's what you're hanging your hat on. You're hanging your hat on Dolphins, Browns, the Bills, and the Lions both having had games where they've showed up and, looked like they could beat anybody, and also getting beat by teams like the Dolphins. And then all you got to do is split with the Ravens, and it's yours.
Yeah. I guess anything is possible still. I think the Ravens have momentum now, winners of 4 in a row. And I think their arrow is pointing up. Their excitement level is pointing up. And everything I can tell coming out of the Steelers is they're kind of resigned to the fact that if it's not one thing, it's another any given week. We just can't get much consistency going, don't have much to hang our hat on. Overreaction or not, my guy Kenny G. I mean, I love Jalen Warren too. I love both these guys. But Kenny Gainwell is a better overall player than Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren
want more of him.
Hurt.
Every time I turn around, he's doing something crazy to race down the right sideline and maybe almost get into the end zone or actually go in. But it was 10 carries for 92 yards. It was 6 catches for 30 yards. He had the most catches on the team. Like, I don't want to see Kenny come off the field.
Well, I think just like we have a lot of confidence in Mason Rudolph as a backup quarterback, he's a tremendous backup running back. Just like Mason missing on what could have been Roman Wilson's season for real. I mean, how close – Roman Wilson was gone down the sidelines. Don't get me wrong. DK Metcalf was wide open over the middle of the field. I actually wonder if they spend so much time about not throwing it over the middle of the field and not turning the ball over that Mason, in the face of pressure, feels the pressure to miss. And if you miss high and outside, and then it's incomplete versus taking the shot because he had thrown a pick like that to DK earlier in the game. That should have been a touchdown to Roman Wilson. The question, though, Kenny Gainwell better than Jalen Warren. Nice 1-2 punch. I don't think Jalen Warren is a true running back one. I don't think he's big enough. He's hurt again. I think he was playing hurt in this game. But Kenny Gainwell, for all his speed and all his versatility, get in the end zone, bro. Like that 55-yard run, which really boosts the yards per carry. Awesome little trick play. He's got to figure out how to finish some stuff because I feel like he's one of those dudes where that's the only thing missing from his game, and that's the thing that's really keeping him from being a starter in this league.
Is every route over the middle the Steelers run a love of the game route?
So that's really fun to think about when you think about deep balls, like true, oh, hey, I'm going to go run this high 7 route. You saw what A.J. Brown and not CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, the high 7 routes, right? George Pickens in particular at the end of that game against the Eagles. These truly elite guys and the chances that you take and the way that you're willing to put the ball up for them to go get it. You watch the body language of guys running routes, and it's almost like they can't believe they even have to do it, let alone they can't believe they didn't get the ball.
Up next here on Dawson and Newberg here, the Knoll Road. I'm thinking how I want to phrase this George Pickens thing. You brought him up. He's obviously top of mind for a lot of Steelers fans. I think no doubt it's not an overreaction. The trade looks worse than ever. The thing that annoys me is when people are saying, well, he would have never done that here, like they're letting the Steelers off the hook for trading him. When you realize now, maybe you realize it now that it's happening to DK Metcalf too, but when you realize you have a world-class talent that you can't get the ball to, it should sound off all sorts of bells and alarms across your front office and your coaching staff. And if you just accept that, like, oh, well, he would have never done that here. He would have never done that here is a reason to fire everybody responsible for not getting him the ball. The trade is just unbelievable. It might be on par with like a Luka Doncic or a Micah Parsons trade out of Dallas. Like you were taking a world-class talent and moving him. The worst thing is you only get a 3rd-round pick for him. The Pickens fail is one of the worst Steelers mismanagements of talent in the history of their entire organization. And if I'm the Rooney family now watching these highlights, he's going off. He's starting to make it look like he's actually the better player, even better than CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys. That would raise my anger to such a level that I'm like, dude, as soon as this season is over, we're swapping out everybody and we got to go find coaches who are capable of it. And I don't think it's going to be hard at all. Like you could find anybody that would have done a better job with George and will do a better job with DK Metcalf than what's currently on that sideline.
So when Robert Spillane left, he was a guy that I don't think the Steelers valued like other teams did in terms of what he could potentially become. And then he goes and he puts up that production and you go, man, how do you let a football character guy with traits like that everyone loves? Well, we didn't think he was worth the money. Well, it wasn't that much freaking money. And then you go, okay, Devin Bush. Devin Bush is a dude that I thought by the end of his time here was basically a loser because he was going to you put a microphone in front of his face and he was saying things like, my dad played in this league. I was a first-round pick. If the Steelers don't want to pick up my option and pay me, someone else will. And you were like, bro, how about some humble pie? And now you're looking at him playing maybe not top 10 pick that you trade up for, to go get, but playing like a very, very good NFL player and looking like he actually wants to play football again. That's part of the big thing that's missing from this is whatever is going on that is just sucking the joy and sucking the camaraderie, the culture is the word you want, the brand, the standard. The Tomlinism stuff is just run its course, man. Like, yeah, what's happening in Dallas would have never happened here. That's facts. But you don't have, but by 30 yards combined, every single other player on your roster that one man is doing down in Dallas. And the shit of it is you had him here with Mason Rudolph when you actually ran and hit a slant route. Because I don't think Mason knew any better. I don't think Mason was worried about, because his career was on the line. So he was willing to take a chance. And he goes 3-0 and they sneak into the playoffs. And Pickens puts up his best run in black and gold, leads the NFL in yards per catch. That year, leads the NFL in yards per catch for his career since he entered the league. Now, they're just using him to his ability. And oh, by the way, he's been as big, if not a bigger knucklehead in Dallas than he was in Pittsburgh. Missing team buses, being rumored with all the other stuff with CeeDee Lamb, whatever the hell was going on in Vegas. And oh, by the way, just deciding during games to punch, choke, hold, throw, being a heartbeat away from a crash out. It's not like George Pickens went to Dallas and all of a sudden is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, like we were on his best behavior. Not happening. He's also dominating. You put up with it when they're that special.
Yeah. And I think, number one, your love of the game is going to go way up. Your energy, your ability to show enthusiasm is going to go way up when you believe in the offense. Like, it's miserable when I feel like I'm a world-class guy. I should be getting the ball. I should be making all these plays. I can help us win. And you don't have any faith in the coaching staff or the quarterback. Like, that's going to drive the joy out of you. One of the things that we found throughout this season, though, is some of his walking or jogging through routes is to set up the defender. And he's not only doing that in routes where he's the primary target, but he's also doing it in routes where he's not going to get the ball to lull the guy to sleep. Like, oh, that's George just skipping through a route again. He's not the primary options. And then bang, now he's what just happened here? And it keeps happening, right? So maybe George is a little reckless in a way that would irritate wide receiver coaches and offensive coordinators, but there is a method to that madness. And I can't tell at this point whether it's petulance saying, well, if I'm not the top target, I'm going to walk through this route, or if he is playing 3D chess against the defensive back to set him up for what is about to come, either in this route or the next route.
Scapegoat is a word that I don't want to use lightly, but I think everyone just believes no matter how much Russ was washed, he's a good dude. So we're not going to blame him. He's just old. And we're not going to blame Mike. All he does is have non-losing seasons. And we're not going to blame his defense. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, these are all Minka at the time, one helmet guys. It was easy to make him the bad guy. He played the role of the villain to a T in the black and gold. And unfortunately, he is now playing All-Pro 1 and potentially $40 million man, having a Randy Moss season, mossing dudes and having that kind of an effect to the point where CeeDee Lamb is now crashing out on the sidelines like A.J. Brown. And he's getting the ball too. That's how much George Pickens is stunting on the whole damn league right now. And
he's so good, dude. And he's the alpha. And there can only be one alpha. So CeeDee's doing the beta thing. He's turning into a whiny B word with the drops. That's how good George Pickens is.
Yeah, he had one in the breadbasket, and he was bitching at Dak that he should have thrown it higher up to the corner. It's like, no, homie, catch the ball. Let's go.
Yeah. All righty, Dawson and New Bear here on the Knoll Road. It's Thanksgiving week. We're going to do our best to work through it and put up our 4 long-form shows. It'll be Steelers, Bills, and we'll be back here shortly to talk more about it. Till next time, have a great night. We'll see you on the Knoll Road.